Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a very special dev chat here at Privateer Press. Today is the beginning of the Infernals CID.
It is. It's exciting.
Yes, it is.
Just
for those of you watching, this is the developer chat. We do multiple streams here at Privateer Press every week. Every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, we do the dev chat. That's where we on the development team get together and talk to you about what's going on with the game. Thursdays is Get Your Paint On with Jordan Lamb, where Jordan paints miniatures and talks about like tips and tricks on how to paint, and always shows off some really cool new models. Then we have two monthly streams we do. First is the Staff Showdown, where staff members come on and play the games we make. Oz and I will be on the return of Staff Showdown this Friday playing Monster Apocalypse. And then Primecast Live is where we bring people throughout the various departments of Privateer Press and sort of talk to them about what's going on. Before we get into the topic today, I got a couple of quick announcements to make to everyone. First off is about Mini Crate. If you haven't seen Mini Crate, it is our miniature subscription service where you can sign up and get a sweet model every single month. And if you sign up for 6 months, you get a VIP model. The current Mini Crate model is the Seeker of Silence. It's an alternate Silas Wishlanier. And if you sign up for 6 months, you get the Bride of Arcadius model as your VIP model. It shows up in the next shipment no matter where you sign up at. There's also a Legend of the Five Rings Mini Crate that we have, and a new model is now available for it by Yushi Shoju.
Yes. Ooh, I like it when you pronounce the L5R names.
Thank you. Of the Scorpion Clan. You can check those out at mini-crate.com and mini-crate.com/L5R.
We are getting dangerously close to having a model that perfectly represents my character in my L5R game.
I mean, just go talk to the sculptors and ask them.
No, there is one coming that is basically my character. I'm hype.
So, if anybody isn't aware, we're doing this launch a little different.
Yeah.
Well, I got a couple more things I need to...
I thought you wrote...
Let him finish his rollout,
We gotta get into the Infernals.
We're getting there, but Tony has a list of things I need to cover.
You know how long I've been keeping this stuff secret?
Well, that's why... Listen.
Come on.
I'm going to get to it if you'll let me.
Move.
Stick to the big board.
I'm trying.
I'm sorry, Tony. I got too excited.
The other thing we want to bring up to everybody is that Lock and Load tickets went on sale.
They did.
Lock and Load 2019 is June 21st through 23rd. There's going to be a ton of events. pplockandload.com. That's where you can go pick up your tickets. Event registration will be up soon, I believe. And you'll get to see all the cool things, the cool seminars, and the classes you can come hang out at. So if you're looking to
come
pick up
and
your
chill with
tickets,
us.
Yeah, come hang out with us. Come have some dev chat.
In fact, I believe there is one of the things we're doing is we will have a developer hangout for the Infernals.
Yep, and we have a Monpok one, and we have something to talk about all of our different games and stuff. We're going to talk about Riot Quest probably for the first real time at Lock and Load.
Now that I've covered everything Tony has asked me to, Oz, please explain to us how the CID cycle goes.
So this cycle is different from all the other cycles we've ever done. Because normally everybody watching right now and everybody not watching right now would have access to all the rules.
Yep.
They have PDFs, they have concept art, they have all that stuff. But Infernals are weird. So we did a special show last week, if you haven't watched it, where we just talked about the core rules of how horrors work and how essence works and how summoning works and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to refresh anybody on that kind of stuff when it comes up and when it's relevant. But nobody has access to these PDFs and these rules documents until after this show's done.
Yeah,
we're going to close this show out, go upstairs, push everything live, and give it all to you so that there's not a whole bunch of people freaking out trying to interpret rules before we explain what exactly is going on.
Because it is so different.
Because it's different. I mean, it's the same in that it's War Machine and it will feel familiar.
But we're talking about
it's different.
A new resource management mechanic in essence, entirely new mechanics on like summoning and the way that horrors.
Are you about to take the pig away from you?
No, he's ready. He's all like dark and foreboding with his little no eyes hat.
All right, so before
You're going to try to draw.
Yeah.
This CID is running starting today as soon as the stream is over until March 25th.
Which is a Monday.
We're leaving for Adepticon on the 26th.
Yeah.
So that'll be ending on a Monday, just so everyone has a heads up. So before we start showing off the concept art and showing off the model rules, let's take a second. Let's go over the basic Infernal rules very briefly so that everyone sort of knows how things work. This was what we covered in depth on our last stream.
Yes.
Yep. And this document will also be posted as part of the CID, so you can read all the core rules when it goes live in a couple hours.
Yep. So I'm going to give a super brief overview very quickly. The Infernal faction uses Essence instead of Focus and Fury. Infernal Masters are your Warcaster equivalent. When they die, you lose the game. They have spells, they have feats, they spend essence to cast their spells, to buy additional attacks, to boost attack and damage, the things that you're used to. When they take damage, they can spend an essence point to transfer to one of their Infernal Horrors, the Warjack Warbeast equivalent. They can do so even if that Infernal Horror is filled up on essence. Infernal Masters do not replenish their essence normally. They don't reave it back off the horrors. They don't auto-replenish like in War Machine. What they have to do is, there are models in the army with marked soul. These are usually the human Infernalists. An Infernal Master has to destroy one of them in their control range. This is an automatic thing done during the maintenance phase. You just pick a model with marked soul, friendly model with marked soul, that's in the Infernal Master's control range, sacrifice them effectively, and that's how you replenish up to your maximum essence. You can also cut yourself. 1 point of damage equals 1 essence. The other thing they can do in addition to spending essence to cast spells is they can summon an Infernal Horror once per activation.
Yeah.
Infernal Horrors, we'll talk about those in a second. They have a variety of essences, essence stats, like War Beasts with Fury.
Yeah.
Like the essence stat could be 2, 3, or 4.
Or 1.
Or 1 in some cases.
Or 1.
In one case.
The Infernal Master spends essence equal to whatever their essence stat is. That horror is summoned in base contact with the Infernal Master and can activate that turn. Now, let's talk about the horrors very briefly. Horrors that you put in your army list to start, they begin the game with maximum essence, equal up to whatever their stat is. And that essence does not go away from turn to turn normally. It's not like focus on a Warjack that
it doesn't clear off.
It stays on there. They spend essence in the same way a Warjack would, slams, throws, boosting to attack, making additional attacks, so on and so forth. The ones you summon show up and play with only 1 essence on them. This is important because at the end of every round, you must remove 1 essence off of all your Infernal Horrors to pay tithe. If you can't pay the tithe, if you go you have an Infernal Horror with no essence on it, so you can't pay tithe, it's automatically RFP'd.
Sad.
One thing we want to mention real fast about that: summoned horrors that are RFP'd for tithe do count towards army points destroyed for Steamroller, and you do tithe, then you do scenario scoring. So if you don't, you can't have a beast in a zone, score it, and then have it disappear for tithe.
Yeah.
Infernal Horrors have not damage grids or spirals. They have 3 rings.
Damage webs.
Damage
Yeah,
webs.
we're going to call it a web.
All Infernal Horrors run and charge for free, baseline. However, when the outer ring of damage has been removed, they no longer run and charge for free. When the middle ring is removed, they roll 1 less attack die on all their attack rolls. And when the final ring is done, they have no damage boxes left.
Yeah, they only have
and
a
they're
few damage in that middle ring.
Yep.
The center ring.
The inner ring.
The last ring.
So that covers the generic basics of how Infernals work. And if you want more of the rules and you want a deeper dive, you can watch the stream from last week. Also, the core rules of Infernals are going up as part of the CID. We just wanted to provide everybody with this information because a lot of it's going to be very relevant in all the models that we're about to talk about right now. So if you missed all that, now you're caught up to speed. Okay. Shall we?
Tony's got some slides.
Hit us with the first slide, T-Money.
Bam.
Bang.
Bang. Pow. Zoom.
There we go.
There we go. So,
Our very first master.
we've combined the rules and the concept art there. There's a little bit more concept art in the CID for angles and weapons and that kind of stuff, but I kind of tried to cram whatever I could on these pages.
Excellent work.
And if you look real close, you can see most of their rules. You can't always see all their tack tips and stuff sometimes because they got a lot of rules. But this is Agathon. This is the
Voice in the darkness.
Yeah, this is the character we showed off last year at Lock and Load. The image everyone's seen of the guy coming through like the doorway with his hand out.
And people are welcome to go and post these pics online, but again, we'll just have this in 2 hours or so. So
yeah, whenever this show's over, we'll make all this stuff live.
yeah.
So there are 3 Infernal Masters for the factions. Each of them has a very distinct role and a distinct place within the faction. And Agathon is the spell-slinging, sort of arcane master.
Yeah.
You'll notice that Essence Stat 9.
Oh, hold on. Let's cover something really quick. It says FOC, focus, on their thing. It's Essence. That's just how our database outputs it.
Yeah.
It's Essence. Please don't freak out. It's not focus. That's just how our thing.
It's the same thing as points cost is labeled as plus something horror points.
Yeah.
Because there's some things the database doesn't do.
Yeah.
So Essence Stat 9, that's a huge control range. And this caster, before we get into the individual rules, is definitely meant to be the pure arcane might Infernal Master. spell sling, control the battlefield, sort of the blaster archetype. It also just has an incredibly powerful feat that when you start to understand and learn the resource economy of Infernals with the essence going back and forth, Agathon cheats that. Like, that feat cheats the whole system completely by filling all the horrors back up with essence to maximum, letting you get to that mid-turn where the Infernals start to normally degrade and having basically a cheat turn where you go back up and you can sustain for a little bit longer or have a stronger turn where you just go all out again.
Well, that's an important thing about Agathon having the highest essence stat is that summoning a horror takes 3 or 4, if you want to summon a substantial horror, 3 or 4 of your essence. And so one of the masters with less essence would have to judge if they want to cast 2 or 3 spells in a turn or summon a horror or whatever. But Agathon can push that a little bit more because of that.
And because you also allocate essence to your horrors, this helps him summon and keep them fueled while still being able to spell sling, whereas the other ones might have to make the decisions between fueling their horrors or casting spells and doing other cool things.
Yeah. And all of them also collect souls that can turn souls into essence.
So
correct.
Agathon, if you look at the spell list, let's just start there. As I mentioned, it's an arcane caster. So when I say it's an arcane spell slinger, you're going to look at the spell list immediately. We're talking Hex Blast, one of the best offensive spells outside of like TK in the game. Straight up teleport to keep themselves safe. Influence to punish infantry. Hellbound also to keep themselves safe because this is a 14-15 Infernal Master. This is the lowest in base defensive stats.
On a large base, also.
Then you've got Darkfire and Curse of Shadows. In addition, if something gets too close, 2 initial melees that both have Dark Banishment. And one of my favorite things, Arcane Devastation. So if somebody casts a spell within the command range of Agathon, which is command 10, can spend an essence and deal damage back to the thing that casts the spell. And if it kills them, the spell doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So like Rip Ron, like a Battle Mage list rolls up against Agathon, and if they hold on to their essence and just spend it, it's just going to tear them to shreds. But more importantly, like you were saying, the Essence 9 stat means you're going to be able to cast these spells, you're going to be able to summon horrors, and then thanks to the feat, which removes all the damage points from the horrors and fills them back up with essence, you can reliably be summoning every turn, and when you start to get taxed, like I'm having to allocate out my essence every turn, just feat, and you get that Nemo effect, but it persists in future turns.
And we'll talk about the Cultist Band more, but the Cultist Band is kind of your choir that can help keep your horrors full of essence. And your opponent will be gunning for them, so he has a good mid-game feat for that too. If you don't have enough cultists left to keep all of your horrors full of essence, then this will help you out. We did have a question that popped up. We talked about it earlier. There's going to be an errata for all the abilities that say things like Warcaster, Warlock, those kind of things. So all that will be given to you as part of the CID, but we're not going to talk about the specifics of if this ability won't target masters and that ability won't target
There is one we do want to talk about that we even discussed pre-show that we've totally forgot to mention, is that as part of the core rules that you'll find in the core rule PDF when the CID goes live, is all Infernal Masters have the inscrutable rule, which means that they cannot be taken control of. So you can't influence a master, you can't... other effects that I can't think of off the top of my head.
What it means is like we're not going to change influence to say non-Warcaster, non-Warlock, non-Infernal Master. You're not going to see that happen to influence. And you can look at the spell right here if you want an example of what I'm talking about. What we're going to do is give them that inscrutable rule so that these instances that appear in other places we won't have to worry about.
And then another question kind of popped up is whether or not you can summon an unlimited number of horrors over the course of the game. You can, but only 1 per turn per master in play. So really, if it's a 7-turn game, for example, you could, in theory, summon a maximum of 7 once per turn.
So this is Agathon. Things that we're going to be keeping an eye on. This feat is easily probably the most powerful feat in the faction.
It's
again, because it does sort of cheat the basic economy of Essence and how it works, and that. In our internal playtesting, it's proven out to be very, very strong. We're interested to see what all of you think when you get it in your hands. And honestly, as the premier spell slinger, do you feel that this spell package is doing that? Do you feel that turn to turn you're able to summon the horrors you want to, and also just really influence the field? Probably a top question that's going to come up is, do I have a way to channel spells? The answer is yes, and we will cover that in a later model. But there is a channeler available to the faction. Shall we move on to the next?
So there's also a good question with Agathon about if a horror already has 4 essence, does it get 4 more essence? But I'm pretty sure that's covered in the core rules. It says it can't have, just like a Warjack can't have more than 3 focus unless a special rule calls out. I think that's covered in the core rules.
Let's move on to, I think, the one that a lot of people were drawn to the most when they first saw it.
This is my favorite of the three masters.
Is that how you pronounce it?
That's what
So it's
Omodemos?
Omodemos or Omodamos or something like that.
The Black Gate.
He is the
Butcher of the faction.
combat caster.
Yeah. Do you want to
is
hit this one up,
basically-
Oz, since this is your brother?
Yeah. So
Immortal.
thank you.
Sorry, I've been doing that like nonstop
Just
the last
keep
3
saying
days.
that like you're drowning in ranch dressing.
Yeah, that was gravy, is what you said.
I don't know. Whatever. It changes. So this is the combat-focused master. It's a long conversation. It's a callback to a private conversation. Don't worry.
I don't want to know.
No, you don't want to know. So the first thing you're going to notice about this guy is he doesn't have as many spells, and he has Essence 6. So he's the most straightforward, in your face, get in there and beat people to death
Yep.
caster. But Hellhounds throws that expectation a little out of whack.
Yes.
Because Hellhound says the horrors in his battle group that destroy living enemy models give him souls. So he doesn't have to cast a spell to get souls from things. It's just everything he has, when it kills something that's a horror, then he gets a soul for it. So he'll often have more than 6 essence.
Yes, and what's important to note is that we're not going to go back, but Agathon has the weakest soul collection because they have the highest essence stat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whereas
his-
Omodemos and the next one we're going to talk about Omodemos has the strongest soul collection. And Zakharov, who we'll talk about in a moment, Zakharov has the sort of middle ground.
Yeah.
And I think an important thing to note is that Soul Collection for Infernals is like a feature, not something that's required for them to play.
No.
Like if
it's
they
a
collect
bonus.
souls, it's useful and it's good, but it is also going to be kind of matchup dependent. If your opponent just brings a whole bunch of non-living things, that's okay. Like we don't expect
If you go
them to
backwards in
always
time
just
and face
be,
like Karchev 9 Mad Dogs, you'll have you won't
Yeah.
get any souls there.
but that's okay. That's built into.
I mean, the thing
travel.
that people are going to notice the most about this caster is synergy.
Yes, I heard it's a good spell.
Well, you've also got a brand new spell that has never been seen before, which
Yeah.
is actually part of the feat as well, which I think a lot of people are
Yeah.
going to pay attention to that one too.
So Locked Horns is that brand new spell. And it says, just in case you can't read it on your screen, while in the spellcaster's control range, friendly faction models gain unyielding.
Yep.
So that means everything
Himself,
in the army
the horrors, the
gets
units.
unyielding. So your big Howlers, which we'll talk about in a second, they're going to get unyielding.
Yep.
But the thing we're thinking about the most, especially with the summoning mechanic and those kind of things, is synergy on this caster and its power level.
Yeah, and what I like about this caster is also we talk about the feat. You cast Lock Horns for free. Your army gets +2 speed and incorporeal. Whereas Agathon is the spellcaster who's just trying to throw out all these offensive debuffs and just straight up damage spells, and can also protect your army against magic. Omodemos definitely wants to summon. I personally feel almost every turn.
Yeah.
You want to summon something. You want to be using Hellhounds to collect souls to keep that essence going, and Omodemos just wants to push into the enemy and sort of break their lines. And then you feat, you go wherever you want to with the extra speed and the incorporeal, you get stuck in, you have unyielding once you're stuck in a melee. And then Omodemos himself, once synergy is ticked up by 3, you're looking at a Mat 11 caster with POW plus Strength 18 chain weapons, 2 of them initials. Like, Omodemos will kill damn near anything in the game, right? Like, I mean, obviously there's going to be exceptions, but like most things in the game, Omodemos will just wreck it.
And he can give himself Retaliatory Strike or something else that's an important piece.
Yes.
And yeah, that coming back at you when you're trying to take him out is a risk you have to take as well.
So I'm less concerned with Omodemos in terms of power level than I am from Agathon just because of that feat.
Yeah.
I think Omodemos is actually in a really great spot, and we'll be interested to see what people's experiences with him. And yes, this is a Butcher Barnabas 2 level, get in your face and just beat you to death caster with Butcher stats, 14, 18.
And it's the master with the most health at 19.
Yeah, and
So
And I think the
he's
one
not
thing,
easy to remove.
and I think the thing we're going to want to keep the closest eye on from people is whether or not his assassination game is like too unstoppable potentially. We have play tested him extensively. In fact, we literally had multiple playtest games literally yesterday, double checking these things as well.
Yeah.
But just make sure, keep that in eye as like if Omodemos runs in, summons a horror, pops feet, and the horde is kind of like dirtles through the enemy army and kills the enemy caster. Those are interactions we want to make sure we're keeping an eye on.
Yep. couple questions I saw that popped up in the chat real fast. Somebody asked if you're in a huge base. No, all of the Infernal Masters are on large bases, all 3 of them. And when you see the size of their models on the large base, they are very tall, big models that sort of
now
fill that space.
We have scaled them back since that initial teaser we showed, which was the rapid
Guardian
prototype of
size.
this next to something else because of costs and production concerns and that kind of stuff. So we will hopefully have some more true scale images to show people of these models with normal human models soon.
But they're
still big.
All 3 of them, and there are only 3, are all on large bases.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the third and final. Jeff, if you want to hit us with some Zakharov.
Zakharov, the Weaver of Shadows. This is the model in terms of the Masters models that I like the most. I'm really excited for her. She kind of occupies this space between Agathon and Omodemos as kind of like this control, supporty, has a variety of options caster. Her stat line is a little bit more resilient than Agathon's, but obviously much less so than Omodemos's. Her feat basically gives your whole army in her control area a defense boost. And then gives what I kind of like to call like a super dodge, that if any point during your opponent's turn, or even during your turn, as long as it's not like while you're advancing, your opponent misses one of your models with an attack roll, you just get to place that model within 3 inches. This can be very powerful. It's definitely kind of like a time walk, like a stall out your opponent control feat.
And it is important, like you said, it's a place effect, not a movement effect. And that is a huge difference. We've seen other feats that something happens and then one of your models gets to move 3 inches, like you got Virus and so on. A place within 3 is particularly strong, especially because you get to change your facing afterwards. You're ignoring other models and you're ignoring things like terrain. That's a really interesting and I think key aspect of that feat.
As Hungerford mentioned, Agathon kind of has like the weakest of this whole collection. Omodemos kind of has the strongest, and then Zakharov is kind of right in the middle. And where she gets hers is from her gun, Echoes of Dissolution, which is a decently long range, range 10, high POW 14, AoE 3, that when it kills enemy living models, she just collects the souls. And it's got reload, so she can fire off a couple of them.
It's Annihilation on a stick, is what it is.
Yeah.
Like she's literally firing out Terminus's Annihilation spell twice a turn at Rat 7.
Her gimmick is she has like a good amount of upkeep spells, and she kind of punishes you if you get rid of them. If you have a caster with Purification or solos or models that remove upkeeps, it hurts because she has the Vinificium rule, which deals damage to models if they get rid of your upkeeps. Spell-wise, like Ghost Walk. It's a great spell. It's going to give your army a lot of like mobility in terms of letting them go through terrain or ignoring free strikes. Grave Wind for either herself or a critical model for increasing their defense, which stacks very well with her feats. Stygian Abyss is kind of her nuke that has the crit blind effect on it. Black Spot we know is just always can have some very potent effects in the game. And then the really interesting spell on her is Shadowgate, which we kind of took from like Gorshade 1 with his Soulgate spell. What allows you to do is basically pick a friendly trooper model in your control area, eat him, and then you teleport a horror to that position. This can do a lot of things. Now the horror doesn't get to activate, but you could like send the horror out.
It can activate first.
Do its thing, and then you can yo-yo it back to safety. You could also just like summon the channeler. Like zip it across the table and then arc spells through it. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Because one of the horrors is the channeler in the faction. Is what he's referencing.
It has a lot of crazy, kooky, cool, neat interactions, and that's going to be one we're going to want to keep an eye on because there's some neat stuff that can happen with it. Either pulling your own stuff back or putting it into really inconvenient places for your opponent to deal with. You're just like, I summon a horror and I stick it right here. Go ahead. Pass turn, right?
So that's the 3 Infernal Masters, and you see that each of them has a very unique spot. Agathon being your sort of arcane ranged offensive caster, Omodemos being your straight melee offensive caster, and then Zakharov being your utility / control denial. This is going to be the one that's going to play, in my opinion, very well to scenario, and just has a lot of tricks available. You're not going to use all the tricks every single turn. I think the skill The skill required to play Zakharov is a little higher than the other two. I think Omodemos is probably the easiest to start off with.
Omodemos is pretty straightforward.
But I think in the hands of really skilled players, Zakharov is going to be a nightmare, which makes sense because lore-wise, as Doug Seacat confirmed in the chat, Zakharov is the most powerful of the 3 Infernal Masters in the actual setting.
Yeah, and there was some comments earlier. If you are a fan of of the RPG, especially from the 3.5 version, that old Monsternomicon, then a lot of these things are reinterpretations of those original concepts. Yes. Like there was a type of Infernal that had an octopus helper beast and stuff, and that's all that stuff is just like the modern reinterpretations of all that stuff.
Yep. And we'll say, in case anyone's wondering if the octopus does anything, no, it's just helping out. It's
you see all the rules right there.
The octopus is being a bro.
Maybe the octopus is the Beneficium.
Yeah, the Beneficium.
As we get into CID, you know, a lot of people have suggestions as we start doing the play testing. We're not really looking for that octopus to be a part of the rules. So if someone's like, if the feedback starts to roll in, man, we want the octopus to have like, you know, a chain strike attack with drag and knock down and consume. It's okay if he doesn't do anything; it just looks cool.
Yeah. Also, someone said that like she's DJing and like. That's what I would do is like take out the book and then put like a
little ficky.
Yep.
All right.
Next slide. Tony.
So before we go to the next slide, well, go ahead.
Okay.
If you already showed it, go ahead, Tony.
Did you press it?
No,
we're there.
That's live. That's
I was going to say,
really happening.
so we're going to start talking about the Infernal Horrors. Here's something I want to tell everybody before we do the entire overview of the Infernal Horrors. They are, in general, going to have less damage boxes and may even hit a little weaker than you're used to seeing in the normal weight class of heavy at this point value. And that's because you can summon them.
Yes.
That is part of the balancing act.
Please don't give us feedback before you play a game that says, oh, these things are so weak, I would never use them. They hardly do anything. They die so easy. Because they're free, and you can have up to 7 of them in addition to whatever you bring in your initial army.
And let's just be honest, as the game developers, this has been one of the hardest things to balance properly. We have to give a point value to something that you can create for free turn to turn, but also there's a benefit for starting with it in your army, max essence. There's, you know, the drawback of when you summon it, it costs essence and it only shows up with 1. And there's so many dials, there's so many aspects of balancing a horror's point value and what it does. We've had to just test these repeatedly.
Well, and we're going to see a lot of feedback initially about what if summoning worked this way and what if summoning worked that way. We've tried lots and lots of versions of summoning. We've tried.
This has been very consistently in development for
in
years.
Control range, no combat action. We've tried all kinds of different things, and what we're at right now seems to work the best. Please play it, give us feedback, but
be aware that we have looked at many alternatives and iterations over the like years, basically.
So let's go over the Soulstalker real fast. The Soulstalker, in my opinion, is very similar to a Nerf in Legion in terms of its defensive and offensive capabilities. But one of the main things that the Soulstalker brings is soul claiming. This is similar to the Hellhound's ability we saw in Omodemos, and now this is available to any of the Infernal Masters in the faction. Basically, if they kill someone with a soul, the Infernal Master gets the soul. You know, 13, 15 Serpentine. So Serpentine means they can't slam, but they also can't be knocked down. They can't slam or trample, but they also can't be knocked down. These are a great model to put in the way of something. Like you can summon them and have them just run up. They're kind of a pain to get rid of. You know, damage-wise, they're sitting at around, what, 20-ish, below 20s in terms of damage boxes?
15, yeah, I think like 22 or something like that off the top of my head.
For a 13-point heavy. Right?
Yeah.
So that's definitely a little bit on the lower end, and that's okay. This is a 13-point heavy with 13, 15 defensive stats and almost light-ish level damage boxes. Offensively, again, you've got the Nerf thing going on. You go in with the coil, then the rest of your attacks are going to automatically hit. That's a power strength 13, and then you got the 15 bite attack that's going to get in there. This is a great light killer / infantry muncher. Effectively, you're not typically going to throw this thing into other heavies.
And it's also the fast heavy.
Yeah, it's also fast.
That's also important.
And there are some damage buffs, like Zakharov has Scything Touch, Agathon has Curse of Shadows, and then Synergy. So their damage stats are not necessarily representative. You just kind of have to jump through a little bit of hoops sometimes with them.
But those are going to apply to every horror we look over here. And so we're just kind of looking at the base version of them. One thing that people will notice, does not have flight. So I know a lot of people are going to look at this thing and think that it's flying because when you look at it, it's sort of like floating around, pulling that guy's soul out. But this is not a flying Infernal Horror.
We've got a question real quick for how the damage webs work. So this is probably a pretty okay time just to kind of run over them real fast.
Yeah.
You have the outer, middle, and center rings. The outer ring is going to have the most boxes.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go in. You don't roll for column or anything like that. You just always mark from the outside. Once you've cleared the outer ring, you go to the middle ring. Once you've cleared that ring, you go to the center ring. And then when you heal them, like with, say, Essence or rules like, say, the Cultist Band, for example, has a rule, we'll get to that can heal. You always heal from the inside out.
Yep. And it doesn't really matter where, like as long as you're going inside out, like as long as you're within the most damaged ring backwards.
You have to fully heal the center before we
It doesn't matter where you pick from because there's no
Yeah.
grid. So like, if you healed the middle ring because that was the most damaged one, you healed 4. You like in War Room, you could just pick 4 spots. It doesn't really matter because when you take damage again, it's going to apply. It's always, funneling down or healing back.
Yeah.
And then there's someone else mentioned, for example, like why is this a heavy? It looks like a light. Again, all of their horrors are significantly lower defensive stats and boxes and POW than an equivalent like an Ironclad or a Juggernaut or a Carnivian or a Titan because, again, you make them for freezies.
Typically.
Yeah.
Typically. Let's Oz, why don't you cover the next one, which kind of does go against a few things we were just saying because this is just a big, beefy...
So this is the Tormentor.
Yep.
The Tormentor is, it's one of the
so
two...
weird looking.
It's one of the two that was in Doug Hamilton's video on Friday.
Little gribbly hands.
Those are not little gribbly hands.
His big gribbly hands. Just
gigantic.
little
He's got little gribbly legs.
So,
He's got
like-
big gribbly hands.
Like we just said, with the Soul Stalker being the fast one, the Tormentor is the slower side.
And
It's
the
only
beefier
speed
one.
5. It's only def 11, so it's going to get hit often. It's going to have...
It's 11-18. Those are
positioning
decent
things.
defensive stats.
But
for a
it's got
heavy.
18 armor. It's also got 4 essence, so it's like a heavy war beast in that regard. It's going to have a lot of stuff to boost and stuff with. It's got snacking, so if it does take some damage, it can heal itself without taking...
Which is
any of
important
your
because it's
stuff.
only got, I believe, like 24 damage boxes.
Yeah,
on
Yeah.
it
heavy.
doesn't
And again,
have
this is a good example
a
of
ton.
This is as tanky as a horror gets,
This is the tankiest horror.
and
Yeah.
it's got like 4
Yeah.
boxes or something. So
And because it's got those weird 4 knuckle legs, it does have steady. And then it's just got 2 great big crushing claws that are open fists at PAL 17 with chain attack, grab, and smash. So it's a very straightforward get in there and punch you heavy, but this faction's not straightforward.
The Tormentor is the ironclad of Infernals.
Uh-huh.
Like it is the Juggernaut, the ironclad, the Crusader. It is like your baseline heavy of what a heavy does.
Yep.
Get up there, punch things to death. But again, 11-18 with only 24 damage boxes compared to other regular heavies. This thing is going to go down much faster.
Yes, but it's going to also pop back up when you summon another one.
Yeah.
a good question that came up is the little like hash mark box on their damage. That is the 5th box. That's just how our
It's just the same as a Warcaster or
it's just
a
how
Trooper
our
or
database
whatever.
thing delineates the every 5 boxes. So yes, it is part of its hit
Yeah.
points.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
And there's a good question
yeah.
about power attacks and other stuff like that. Can the Tormentor not chain attack if its middle ring is broken?
There's no limitation.
Of course
on,
There's
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
The middle ring says 1 less die on attack
Attack
rolls.
rolls.
Yeah.
It doesn't say anything like you can't make power
There
attacks. or you
are no
can't
weapon
do-
systems to be disabled.
Yeah.
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 So
yeah.
you can absolutely do it.
Yeah, you can run and charge for free as long as you have at least 1 box in your outer ring.
Yep.
And then you lose 1 die in your attack rolls if your middle ring is gone, and if your center ring is gone, you're dead. But there's usually only like 4 hit points in that
So
center
I
ring.
guess there might be some huge confusion because the tactical tip calls out chain attacks. They understand the tactical tips are kind of like
the
all
tactical tips,
generated. So
The tactical tips are generated from that, and we edit them in layout if they don't apply or remove them or whatever.
yeah,
So,
so don't get too confused by them. They're not law. They're just a little thing
Yeah.
there.
Yep. So, Jolson, will you
Yo.
go over the Desolator for us?
Yes, I will actually, because the Desolator is one of my favorite beasts to summon. The Desolator is sort of like the same flesh chassis as the Desolator.
it shares body parts.
Or as the Tormentor.
Yeah.
Same stat line, same boxes, some slight differences, and it's like Mat and Rat comparison. Its big deal is that it straightens out its giant gribbly crab claws for little tiny claws up on the shoulders. But what it has is these big black bile spewing gun fists
Mouth cannons.
Mouth cannons, thank you.
Yeah, it vomits out through its mouth,
Yeah.
its mouth hands,
And
just ruins your day.
one of the reasons
Yeah.
I like the
Yeah.
Desolator so much is it kind of has like a critical component to like making the faction hit at kind of normal-ish levels. It has an on-hit, models hit by this weapon suffer -2 armor. So yes, it is in fact kind of like a Squirty Fist. Thank you, Pagani.
No, Squirty Fist is in Crucible Guard.
But it's
Yeah.
kind of
This
like
is-
a Squirty
this-
Fist.
This is a pukey fist.
This is, I was going to say, this is Pukey Fist.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of the reasons I like to summon this one is because it allows you to like put your master exactly where you need your master to be, drop it into play, and then you just either spray down hordes of infantry or apply the spray to like an enemy heavy model that you want to kill to put the armor debuff on it. It has assault, so it can like go where it pleases to put that spray, where it wants to go.
Yep.
It's just very, very, and a little bit of a thing to note with this is while the spray is POW 10, the armor debuff is applied on hit, so it's technically POW 12.
Yeah.
So a question that came up, people are asking, is Withering Death cumulative? It's not. Same named abilities don't stack unless a rule says that it does. That's just a core rule in Prime and Primal. So when the Desolator runs up and pukes all over you with his mouth hands, you only get that -2 armor once.
Yeah, the Desolator tends to be a heavy that I summon at least once a game, if not 2 or 3 times, because of the versatility of being able to put an assault spray wherever I like.
Yeah. Or 2 sprays on 2 different vectors.
Yeah.
A couple days ago, I was playing, and Souls got a solo flanked on me and was taking pot shots at my Cultist Band, and I needed that solo to be dead, but there was also a unit in front that was coming at me, so I got that model in the right place to shoot the 2 different sprays, different directions.
Testing wise, obviously Withering Death is one of the major components of the faction, honestly. This is like one of your go-to support heavies, as Jeff has been mentioning. So in CID, when we're watching the Desolator, we're going to see how people are applying Withering Death, if it's too strong, if it's too weak. If it's just right, are they able to apply it reliably and where they need it to be? We think at Rat 6 with Assault, and remember, these things can activate the turn after they're summoned. So
It's okay, like aim.
Yep.
yeah, they can
They
also
could
aim.
just pop in and aim.
So your caster can walk up, summon one, they can aim, or they could just assault off and take the shot. Remember, they charge for free. They'll start with an essence. They can spend that one to boost if they want to. I mean,
Yep.
they would get tithed away if you
They
didn't
would
more
go
essence.
away. But, hey, sometimes that's all you need.
And that's a cool way to think about Masters. Think that you maybe don't want to put any more on the Desolator. This is effectively a spell you could cast, right?
Yeah.
You could spend 4 essence, drop a Desolator, and know that you're not going to add anything else to it. What it's going to do is it's going to charge off for free, boost the spray attack, and put a spray that does -2 armor to everything it hits. And that's it.
Yeah.
And then you let it go
Yeah.
away. Would your caster cast a forecast spell that said put an
Spray twice from
spray
somewhere
spray
else
twice
on the
over
table?
here and give -2 armor to everything hit? Would that be worth 4 focus to you? It sounds like it's worth 4 focus to me.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ways I think we're gonna all have to wrap our heads around how Infernals play whenever you're looking at these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so now the lights. So there's
light.
3 heavies in
Yep.
the faction.
3
and
masters,
there are
3 heavies.
A couple lights and a lesser.
4? 3?
There's 2 lights and a lesser.
Oh.
So let's go over the Lamenter.
Oh yeah, you're right.
So the Lamenter is
I know what I'm talking about.
a terrifying light, in my opinion,
It-
and that's because of the soul parasites rule.
It does kind of 2 things.
Also, that art
it's
is
kind of
sweet.
it's also super creepy. It's kind of a combat light, but it's also kind of a support light.
Yeah, it's a 13-14
it's an-
defensive stats with
yeah.
19 damage boxes, so not
Yeah.
terribly durable. Only costs 9 points, but it's got dodge. The
Mm-hmm.
main thing it's got going on is Soul Parasites, which says it can spend an essence point, and then all enemies within 4 inches of it just get -2 to their attack rolls.
Those
Yeah.
living non-souls.
It's got weird little
living non-souls.
bugs in its butt or whatever, and they come out
What?
and they mess with
What?
it. I think those vents on its
Were
thorax or where little spirit bugs come out of it.
Oh,
Soul parasites.
sure,
They're
man.
like bees. They're like bees, but they're made of essence.
Okay.
Wow.
Come on.
The Lamenter, in my opinion, is another force multiplier, especially when you look at casters like Zakharov with the feat that gives +2 defense, and then that 3-inch place if you miss. Also has Grave Wind for +2 defense and Poltergeist, and then you can have Lamenters in the back line having these auras that say get -2 to attack rolls. I think the Lamenter is a very strong light.
Yep.
I think it's very. You're going to have a lot of them. You're not going to summon like 3 or 4 throughout the course of a game, but you're usually going to bring 1 or 2. In my
Yeah.
opinion.
Could very
So-
likely.
And I'm really concerned. The thing I'm going to be watching with them during the CID is the usage of Soul Parasite. I wonder if, because I've seen it in our games be very good,
Yes.
and I want to make sure it's not overbearing, effectively, because
Well,
it's a lot.
The thing I'm most concerned about is Zakharov's feat.
Yeah,
Because it's +2 defense, and this is -2 attack. That's a 4-point swing. And when you miss the thing, it can teleport out of your range, basically. So if even if you come in with like...
It gets to teleport and dodge.
Sure, but I mean in
Let's
general,
talk about
all
that
the
real
things.
quick.
So if this thing...
Going places.
Here's an example of a thing that really happened. My Howlers, not my horrors, my Howlers. My Howlers were engaging some stuff.
Yeah.
And they killed a bunch of it. And we'll talk about them in a second. And then I used Zakharov's feet and positioned this guy so that I got a good sweep. And Souls came in with infantry with range 2 melee weapons. And I believe CMA, and was still missing the horrors, and then they were just bopping out. So like the other CMA wasn't positioned anymore because I could move 3 inches and they
Right.
were only 2 inches. So the Lamenter stacks on top of Zakharov's feet in a really interesting way that might be a little too much.
Now, there's something real fast I want to cover, and you might have noticed this theme by now. The Soul Stalker had a magical bite and a magical tail. The Tormentor had magical crushing claws. The Desolator had a magical black bile spray and magical claws. The Lamenter has magical melee attacks. Damn near
magical?
everything in Infernals has magic
magical.
attacks.
Well, they're made of magic, kind of.
They're made of something.
They're made of souls.
They're just made of something else.
Yeah, they're weird extrusions from another plane made of souls.
So take that, Ghost Fleet 2017.
Boom. I want to hit on a couple quick things too, especially about the Lamenter. One, low key, he has 2 attacks that are POW 13, which is pretty darn good for a
That's what I
light war
was saying.
beast.
He's a combat light, but also a support light.
And when you factor that in, like the -2 armor from the spray, maybe you put Scything Touch on it from Zakharov, like suddenly it's a POW 17 that you made for freezies, basically. And then it sits there with like its soul parasites on.
Yeah.
Question is like if the Lamenter leaves play, does the ability end? Yes, because it's
Well,
no
that's
longer-
because that's the important thing about reading rules. All that says while they're within 4 inches of this
Correct.
model. So if
Yep.
the model's not on the table, you can't be within 4 inches of it.
And remember, he doesn't spend a point for Soul Parasite, so while it's very strong, I mean, if you're summoning him in, they're showing up with 1 essence, and then they'd have to spin that essence to Soul Parasite. And unless you put some more essence on them, they couldn't pay tithe, and they would just disappear.
Yeah.
So there's...
Yeah. Don't do that to yourself.
When you start messing around with the Soul Parasites, if we get feedback that it shouldn't cost them an essence to activate this ability, we're definitely not interested in that. Like, it costing an essence to turn on versus being, say, a special action is very deliberate because of how strong it is and the ability, again, to summon things into play.
Yeah. There's a lot of also comments of like, the def is low, it should be higher def if it wants to be, like, again, these all have low stats.
It has a +2 def ability
Yeah.
built into it, unless the thing is attacking it from more than 4 inches away.
I'll tell you right now that if people come into the CID and say like, oh man, we want the Desolator to be def 12, arm 19, it should be tougher. It's like, no. These things, you can summon them for free.
I should have wore a shirt today that just said, play it twice before giving feedback.
Yes, and that is a thing that, and that's actually a good point I want to bring up because oftentimes when the CID launches, we usually get a lot of players coming in and giving their hot takes, which is usually a lot of fun and people kind of give their input.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now that if people come into the CID and give their hot takes on Infernals before they have played games, I'm going to very politely thank them and close the thread. Because I promise
your hot
you,
take's going to be wrong.
yeah, I promise you that you have to play this faction before you can have any reasonable input on it.
We're rolling up on the first hour of this being over. So everyone, by the way, if your lunch breaks are ending, just quit. Go sit in your car and keep watching because this is going to be a long one. We're probably going for 2 hours total.
I don't know. It could be 4. It could be 8. It could be whatever.
If this is an 8-hour stream, I'm going to lose my mind. Let's move on, shall
Okay,
we?
yeah. So the next light, the Shrieker.
The Shrieker.
Or, and I like to imagine that all the eyeballs are what's making the noise.
Oh, he's so weird.
He's real.
Look at it.
He's kind of got the weird knuckle leg arms that the other the heavies
Dude, it's
have.
so creepy.
Dude, he's so creepy.
It's haunting. It's
Yeah,
awful.
yeah. Okay, so this is the gun light.
This is the anti-infantry gun.
Yeah, it's kind of a cannon. It recently, please don't give us lots of feedback that its gun should be longer range.
Yeah.
Because we recently pulled it back because, like Jeff said earlier, you can summon this thing and it can aim. And
Or walk.
or walk.
Boost.
And so with really long range, it can get to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And it has kind of a pseudo AoE on its gun.
Yeah,
It's got Admonisher.
Yeah. Yes.
range 10, POW 13, which is a very good gun.
Again, magical.
Magical.
And this one does have eyeless sight.
And it's got eyeless sight and gunfighter, so it can shoot stuff that gets all up in its giant eyeball face.
I mean, it is the role on this one is probably one of the best defined.
Yeah.
It's there to shoot infantry and to clear out swaths of lower armor single wound infantry.
Yeah.
It's a chaff clearer, and it's particularly very good at it. I just can't look at it anymore, so let's move on to the next one. Tony, what is that thing? Who drew that?
Yeah, who did draw that thing?
I made
That
it as
thing is-
big. I made it as big as possible.
It
Guys,
is so
no,
cool, but
don't
it is
just-
disturbing.
Let's just skip it.
Okay.
Oh, that's not better.
So for any of you, if any of you keeping score at home with your old Monsternomicons, this was a Bivither before.
Yeah, that's another thing that we should talk about too. Is all the names are not their weird alien names.
Oh, no.
And that is because
No.
these are the names that like the denizens of Cain, like the Iron Kingdoms, who are fighting against these
Yeah.
things, are calling
When the
them.
trencher screams,
They don't
"Watch
go,
out for
"It's
the
a cool Vosh."
Watch out for the pukey fists.
Yeah.
They have a nickname for it.
I'm sorry, I have
And
heard
they call
nothing
it-
y'all have said. I've just been looking at the concept art of this thing.
Sure. So this is a lesser. It's not like none of these images are to scale with each other. This thing
Yeah.
is a lesser. It's on a 30mm base. It's a human-sized octopus, flying octopus. There's no problem there. It
So-
doesn't have little suction cups on its tongue like the Lamentor does.
No, it does not.
Super creepy.
I mean, what this thing does, it's a channeler.
Yeah.
It's also Essence Stat 1.
Uh-huh.
So you can summon it for what?
It's a summonable arc node.
Yeah.
You can summon it for 1. Now, remember, you summon during your Infernal Master's activation.
Yes.
So it's not like you summon this thing, then it runs off, then you get to cast spells through it. You do have to do a little bit of setup. But as we get later on, you will find there are ways you can put horrors in some places you didn't expect to, like
Yeah.
the use of the Infernal Gate, which
Yep.
we'll talk about. But you do need a little bit of setup on this one. And that's why they are not necessarily the worst choice to start in your battle group sometimes. It's just a little like soul martyr effectively that runs off.
I very often start with one of these and play, if not two.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Its stats are basically irrelevant.
And Refugee thinks it looks like it has one big eye. It doesn't have any eyes.
Yeah. This thing's
It's like that's why I put the hat on Hamilton so you couldn't see his eyes because the theme of this is no eyes.
but not all of them have eyeless sight.
But then Hamilton went for a flight.
No, I think because the one has all the eyes for the
Yeah,
rest of them.
yeah, he borrows all of them.
Yep.
And don't overlook that this thing has a magical chain weapon also.
It's
Yeah.
a Mat 5.
I mean, it's not great. It's not going to do a
It
lot
does,
of work.
it does charge for free, so it could
but
just
it
charge
has,
and boost.
It has a free charge,
Sure.
and it has a magical chain weapon.
Sure.
I mean, it could matter.
Its def and armor could be 1. This thing is a channeler
Yeah.
you can summon for 1 point that
Yeah.
can run around and channel spells.
Yep.
Like
And it has-
that's what this thing
It
does.
has 14 hit points, right around what a lesser normally has. Some of them have 13, some of them have.
I had a question on the turn a horror is summoned, does it tithe? The answer is yes. The exception to that, and we'll get to this at basically the end of the models, is in the Dark Legacy theme force on the first turn of the game, your horrors do not tithe.
So let's start talking about what is the most important unit in all of Infernals.
It is the unit that makes the faction work.
Yep. So that is the Cultist Band.
Yep.
First off, before
It is also the unit with the giant bullseyes painted on their faces.
Yeah.
Not literally.
Before we talk about the rules, I just want to take a moment and look at the concept art for those. This is the best chaff infantry I've ever seen in this game. These dudes look so metal.
They are awfully metal.
My God.
Yeah.
So, real fast, these all have marked souls. This is from the Dark Cult ability. So, sacrificing 1 cultist replenishes your Infernal Master to maximum essence at the start of the turn.
Yep.
They've got range 1, power plus strength 9, non-magic weapon, with gang.
This is like the one non-magical attack.
Yes.
But-
yes, they're focused on using their magic in other ways, not
Yeah.
empowering their little swords.
The main thing they do is they can gang in Shanghai to kind of keep replenishing their numbers, so you
Yes.
can keep sacrificing them to mark souls. But they've got Rituals of Shadow. And Rituals of Shadow, range 3, target friendly horror, give it an essence. A horror can be targeted by this multiple times. So
Yep.
a unit of cultists can walk up to one of your heavies you just summoned. Remember, when you summon something, it shows it with 1 essence. The cultists walk up, they Ritual of
Yeah.
Shadows it multiple times,
Yeah.
and then you fill it back up.
Which is why these guys have a giant bullseye on their face.
Yes.
Because that trick of summoning the Desolator or whatever, giving it 4 essence and then letting it move and spray with boosts a couple of times is really powerful.
So in the beginning, a lot of people were talking about, well, what I'm going to do, we mentioned cultists were one of you, they were cheap and you would bring them. They're like, well, every game I'm just going to bring a minimum unit, keep them on my back table edge and use them to sacrifice every turn. But the thing is, the way that the economy of essence works is when you're summoning, you need
You
cultists
need 'em in
up
the
there
mix, yeah.
by the horrors to use Ritual
Yeah.
of Shadows multiple times. And because your caster with the Tithe, eventually your caster can't keep up. You need multiple units of cultists
Mm-hmm.
using Ritual of Shadows turn to turn, healing so that your caster doesn't have to worry about it. These are the glue that
Yeah.
makes the entire Essence system work.
Mm-hmm.
And
They're a lot like Choir and Beast Handlers and those other really, really important
Yes.
support units that are squishy and super important, and they have to be in there to get their abilities to really work.
and their defensive stats cannot go up. So they are 12-12.
Yeah.
We want them to be the squishy because the counterplay to Infernals in general is to take out the cultists.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is the main thing that's going to cause that army to start falling apart.
And there's a couple things I want to hit on is a lot of people are saying like, well, I'm just going to take a unit and I'm going to put them on my back table edge. And that's fine. But then at that point, you might as well say that your master is effectively 23 horror points then. You're just paying
Yeah.
5 points to do what every warlock and warcaster in the game does automatically. Additionally, another little point on this is in the Dark Legacy theme.
And then they just get shot by Cossacks, by the way.
Yes, correct.
They do, yeah.
In the Dark Legacy theme, one of these units can ambush, and there's also some attachments and stuff which we'll be getting to later for this unit.
No, we're doing them next.
Oh.
I changed the
cool.
order of
Oh,
of
no.
a tiny
Oh, did
bit.
you?
I put all the stuff for this unit together
Oh.
in Tony's slides.
Look at you.
And I even told you guys about that before. But
I
whatever.
was probably
What?
drunk.
Okay, so yes. Also, these guys are not ever going to be melee powerhouses.
Well,
but
their attachments will be.
but their attachments matter, and they should still be kind of combat capable. So don't say please take gang off and give them something else.
Yeah, gang is a real rule. They go to
Whatever.
Mat 7, POW 11 charging. That's
Yeah.
not bad when it comes to killing other
Yeah.
enemy infantry. And then
So-
you Shanghai them and put them in your unit.
Yeah.
Become more cultists.
Are we
so-
moving on to their weapon attachment or their character?
Their command attachment, Lord Adept Quintus Faustus.
Quintus
Should be
Faustus?
next. Now you'll notice we're missing a couple of pieces of concept art in the CID. Not all of the concept art is 100% final because the release schedule for some of these things is dragged out a little bit. So there's a few things in here we don't have concept art for, but their rules are
They
pretty
are
clear
concepted,
for
we
what,
just don't not give
for
them
what.
to you yet.
Well, they're just not final.
Yeah, correct.
Like there's still some things changing about maybe this and
Yep.
maybe that and sculpting. and
In
that
theory,
kind of stuff.
it's a wizard guy.
Yeah, he's a wizard guy who runs around. He's a character command attachment, so only one of your cultist bands can have this model. But he does quite a bit of
Yes.
stuff for that cultist band, and he changes up what they do. Like, so you could run a minimum unit of cultists with no attachments as just basically a choir, who's just following your army around, giving out essence, doing that kind of stuff. Or you could put this guy in the unit that ambushes. And then suddenly the unit it's more of a combat unit. It's doing other things.
I mean, it's a unit that has a magic ability 7 annihilation tied to it.
It does.
Yeah.
This is with a battle wizard.
So
just
a couple
in case.
things with Quintus Faustus here. As Hungerford mentioned, he has Annihilation, which is a spell that was on Terminus. It allows him to collect souls. He can either use that if the unit is like chilling and like loading up essence on their horrors, and then he just throws one out and tries to get some souls. He might be part of like the ambushing unit, and they go in and he bops a dude with his gang staff, and then he triggers a battle wizard and throws out Annihilation. He has Shepherd, so when the models in his unit get killed by enemy attacks, he collects their souls, and then he can spend them for Arcane Vortex, Grave Mist, and he can also spend them for boosts. So
Yeah.
he's got a lot
Which he
going
can
on.
boost annihilations with Strength of Death.
Yes.
Which is very strong. This guy is just pure offense, arcane ability, and also the Arcane Vortex is really strong. Just have running around inside that action. If you're trying to wonder what he looks like, imagine your traditional old school evil sorcerer. I'm talking giant beard, evil
got a
Gandalf
big
kind of
staff.
thing going on.
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
like crazy outfit.
You'll see in a second, pointy shoulder pads are a thing in this faction.
Very much so.
So yeah.
of pointy
Another
bits.
really, really important thing. This is the first model that we've talked about that has this specific rule. It's the Mark Soul rule. Almost all of the humans, or all the humans,
All
in this
the
army,
humans.
you can eat for essence. You want to do it with your cultists because they're dirt cheap.
Yeah.
But if your opponent is being really aggressive and taking out your cultist,
Sometimes.
you'll start having to be like, I guess I have to
Ooh, I
eat
like
this
that.
important model from my army to get my essence back. So that's a real big thing with the counterplay to this faction, is that you might have a support solo that's doing awesome things for your army, and you might have to take it off the table just so you can cast spells.
Someone had a great one. I agree. He's less of an evil Gandalf and more of a Jafar.
Yeah,
Sure.
I would agree with that.
And real quick, let's actually back it up. The Cultist Band, they have the rule Dark Cult. That means while they're in formation, they are marked souls. So sorry, no weird out of formation shenanigans to eat your own dudes.
Yep. So the last thing you can add to the cultists is their weapon attachment, which we've previewed before. Everyone's seen.
Yeah, people have seen the Dark Sentinel.
This straight baller.
Yeah.
The Dark Sentinel. Also has Rituals of Shadow and Touch of Darkness, just like the regular cultist. So this guy can be adding essence to people. Gang in Shanghai like the others. Basically what the weapon attachment does is it just trades in the dagger for a range 2 magical PAL 12 greatsword, which on a Mat 6 guy with Gang, this makes cultist actually be able to get up there and do stuff. Mat 8 PAL plus strength 14 does work.
Yeah, so you can have 3 of these in the unit because they're a weapon attachment. Very commonly, how I typically build my Infernal armies is I'll usually have like some support cultists, and then I'll have like a fat brick of them with like the attachments and Faustus who will like ambush off the side.
Yeah,
and go and
this guy
spook my
changes what that ambushing unit's really looking like, because all of a sudden there's range 2 melee weapons and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. So
Also,
really interesting
Travis,
how versatile the cultist unit is.
Travis is in there somewhere.
Yes, he is.
yeah, Travis has been talking about that.
Travis, hold off on the thing I gave you the thing for.
What?
Until after we're done here.
What is even happening?
What?
He knows what I'm talking. He knows what I'm talking about.
Okay.
All right.
Crushed
I'm going to do that too with somebody randomly in the chat. Sarah, the thing, don't.
Just Just wait on that thing, Travis, that I gave you the thing for. Just hold off.
What?
You and your secrets.
I'll get my phone out and I'll start chatting with him
So
separately.
let's move on to the first of the actual infernal infantry.
Yes.
And this is
in addition to humans.
Yeah, they have actual infernals. So the cultists are infernalists. They're humans on Cain. This is the first infernals. This is the Grievous Swarm.
That's the sound they make.
So
Everything
That's
makes
canon. That's
everything
canon.
makes that sound. By the way.
Yeah. By the way,
in
that's-
your opinion,
rules-wise, they're straightforward.
they're really straightforward.
But-
They're up to 10 model unit.
Yep. They're
They
light
have
infantry.
guns.
They're small-based infantry.
I mean, they're flying eyeless sight, gunfightering, CRAing, magical,
10.
crit firing, range 10, PAL 12 guns.
Yes. I heard that's a good stat line. I heard that's
So
good.
these are like infernal hollowmen.
or in
They, 13, 12, you're going to kill them. They go where they want. They shoot what they want. They murder it to death. They see through stealth. They can ping things that can't be targeted except by magic attacks. These are your premier, I'd say, harassment unit. Flying around, just pinking off solos, taking out chaff.
or big fatty CRAs into heavies.
Yeah, I think that you, Infernal specifically, you do have a couple better options for dealing with heavies, but if you need to put a big fatty CRA in there, right, you can get it up to a 20
it's
for
after
sure.
you spray with the Desolator and then
Just by themselves.
Yep.
Like they're primarily going to be fighting other infantry and plinking off lights and solos. They're a really strong unit, and you're going to see, when we get to the Infernal Gate, some of the things it can do for the Infernal units. It can be particularly hard to remove these guys from the table.
Yeah. Next.
These are the elite infantry of the Infernals, and the most metal thing.
These guys are pretty awesome.
Friggin' Howlers.
So the Grievous Swarm are 30 millimeter bases. You can have up to 10 of them. So they're a bunch of like squiddy things flying around, spitting fire at you.
They're the swarm that comes out of the gates, right?
Yeah.
It's just like blasting stuff everywhere.
These things are giant murder monsters. They're medium-based infantry. You can only have 5 of them in the unit.
Yeah, they have 8 boxes.
They have 8 boxes. They're made of armor. They're just literally like muscle and shell.
There's no cloth. There's no heraldry. There's no armor.
Just a giant sword arm.
Just a giant sword arm and kind of a big shield arm.
Yeah.
Kind of. Yeah.
I guess. I think that's reflective of their naturally high armor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it is. And then rules-wise, they have Berserk, Bloodthirst, and Vengeance. And Grievous Wounds, just in case.
Yeah.
And of course, magic weapons because it's Infernals.
magic
There's
weapons
not a
because
ton
they're
of Grievous
Infernals.
Wounds in the faction. This is one of the most reliable ways to apply it in the faction.
Yeah.
These are the elite shock troops. These are your Gatorman posse. These are your Demo Corps. These are your Ravagers. This is that spot in Infernals. And they do exactly that. They're going to slam into something, and they're just going to tear into everyone around them.
And you know what? When they're Def 16 with Zadaroth and Soul Parasites, they're real hard to kill.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can stack on them, and then and somebody in chat just made a good point. They kill Tharn all day, every day, all night long. They kill a lot of stuff.
I mean, they are berserkers with range 2, and they don't have access to silence or anything like that.
No.
So they might hit themselves, but you can position them in certain ways and stuff like that to get around that.
So testing-wise, we're going to be keeping a very close eye on the Howlers. They are intentionally very strong.
I would not expect Berserk to go anywhere. That is very much like
They
part
are-
of the theme
they
and
are
the
murder
flavor
monsters.
of them.
Yeah.
That they go crazy and they murder a whole bunch of enemy dudes, and sometimes the only thing left for them to bop is a buddy.
Yep.
Yeah. That buddy might be a griever. It might be a cultist who got too close. You got to be careful. These things are just kind of set loose and they murder their way
Yeah.
across. And then they probably evaporate like everything else because they're made of soul.
I just can't wait to paint these.
Also,
Yeah.
like they'll get
Yeah.
locked horns from Omademos' feet, so they're arm 19 there. Like there's a lot of things.
Yeah,
that's
just
going
give them
on
+2
with
speeded and incorporeal with
Yep.
Omademos' feet, and then just go wherever you want, berserk
Yeah.
wherever you want, kill the world.
A question is, can the cultists heal them? No. If I recall correctly, you'll see it in a little bit when the actual PDF comes out. But on the cultists, their heal rule specifically calls out horrors only.
No, the heal roll is living soulless models, so the cultists can absolutely walk up
it's
behind
soulless
Howlers
models.
I lied.
and heal them.
Yeah.
I'm a big liar.
Yeah.
By the way, that's
We
horrifying.
we had a conversation about how to make it so that the masters weren't benefiting from that
Yes.
healing in certain ways. And it used to say
You could heal
it used to
anything.
say you could heal anything, so we made it soulless things because that affects these infantry specifically.
Yeah, and we should point out that the masters
And
have
the
souls.
horrors.
In fact, they are full of souls.
They're made of souls.
Yeah, they are chock full of soul gooiness.
Welcome to hour 2 of the Infernal CID
Yeah.
talk,
Yeah.
everyone.
We are through
We
the
are-
units, the battle groups, and the masters.
We're halfway through.
We're about halfway through.
Halfway through.
Yeah.
There are 23 models in here.
Yeah, there's 23 models in this faction. It is smaller than like Grimkin or Crucible Guard, but a big part of that is the fact that you're just going to own a lot of cool horrors because you're going to be summoning them, and that's dope.
Tony,
Let's get into the solos.
we have our next slide.
Lord
This guy, pose-wise, he's my favorite.
Lord Roger de
Like,
Virus.
of all these kind of like little support solo things, I love that he's got some sort of book with a soul either coming out of it or trapped in it, and the knife is involved.
Yeah, it's like I think
And-
he's like drawing it out of the
Yeah.
out of the
Yeah.
book into like his sword or something.
And I am really happy that you finally got a character made in your likeness, Oz.
The beard's not quite there.
I mean, the beard is
it's
longer,
close.
but that is
He's
you.
got the grumpy face though.
That is 100%.
He's definitely got the grumpy face.
All right.
Actually,
although,
all right.
although when you look
Lock
at
and
him,
load cosplay. It's
he's
gotta
not.
happen.
I don't
now.
think he's as tall as I am, but it's close enough.
we could be. We talk about. You don't know.
Well, he's a miniature. Of course, he's not as tall as you are.
Yeah,
but
he's
I'm
like
saying,
this
like,
tall.
conceptually.
Yeah.
Come on.
So this is the caster attachment for the faction.
Yes.
Yes. This is, and I mean, he has the basic things: Spell Slave and Harmonious Exaltation, but Arcane Assist, just all solid cast attachment stuff. But Direct Spirits is
Direct
huge
Spirits is real
in this
good.
faction.
Yeah.
This is real good.
This makes him a priority target.
So
And he has a magical dagger.
The steelhead cannon dude is always. That's also true. There is a steelhead cannon guy.
That guy's not me.
there's not a ton to say about Deviros, honestly, because when you look at his package, it's really self-explanatory.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no
Yeah,
real tricks to go over. This is just an all-purpose, solid Warcaster attachment.
Yeah.
Outside of Direct Spirits and the fact that he has Marked Soul, like this is almost the template for like, what does a caster attachment look like? I'll give him Spell Slave Harmonious and let him upkeeps
Yeah.
for free.
So
And,
everyone's
like,
got an upkeep.
done.
And you can always eat him for essence if you have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really don't want
I
to
have-
eat him.
Whoa.
He's one of your last.
There's been a lot of situations where I'm like turn 5, turn 6 in the game, and I'm like, someone's got to bite the dust here. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, at that point in the game, oftentimes it is Roger because he is kind of just standing behind my caster. Or I'm sorry, my master.
Oz, shall you cover the next one?
Master Theurgist Gideon Asher.
Yep.
So this is a arcane attacking and support solo
Yes.
for the
Yes.
faction. It's another Mark Soul because it's another Infernals who's done some dark, pact with them. But he has Hex Blast and Puppet Master.
Like two of the best spells you can
Yes.
cast, like off a solo.
Yes.
Again, not TK.
He also does a weird arcane pulse to knock out upkeep spells around
Yep, he
models
he
that
blows
blows up. So that's cool. It's got Dark Power, which is just better dice
Yeah.
rolls.
He has Signs
on
Importance on his
attacking.
attacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Signs Importance Hex Blasts are really good.
And then, there's been some other teleportation stuff on the Masters and stuff. And then he also has Gatewalker. He can just boop around and reposition, sort of, but with a place effect.
Yeah.
So he's kind of a gun solo with spells.
Yeah.
And
Or Hex Blast is a good
also
spell.
Puppet Master when you need Puppet Master on
I
something.
think this is a really strong solo because Hex Blast is, there is an Infernal Master that has Hex Blast, but Otherwise, you've still got Puppet Master, which we know how strong Puppet Master is. Anytime you can mess around with rerolls in the game, I mean, you go back and watch the old Papagani math episode that we did on Primecast a while back, where he talked about rerolls and so on. It's just an incredibly powerful effect to not only be able to cause in your own forces, but also enemy forces as well. And then if you're not playing the Infernal Master with Hex Blast, upkeep removal is just super key.
Yeah.
It's very good in this game, and having somebody who can pretty much guarantee they're going to land it because they're getting off a Signs Importance Hex Blast is
But also,
amazing.
that Dark Power on a POW 13 attack is pretty nice too.
Yes.
Like, dropping the low die from 3 when your POW's 13, you're going to...
A good little question came out is, does he blow up if you eat him for his Mark Soul? The answer is no. The Arcane Pulse triggers off of an enemy destroying him.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and move on to the next solo, and my